3 years after the night of the Joplin tornado, my 3 grandkids and I drove back up to Joplin to Billy Sims' barbecue to relive that very scary night. Well, I picked up the kids that night at the church because Roxanne was doing a Haiti training for the buddy in Casey's church, and so I said, I'll just come up and take the kids to dinner. So they jumped in the car and I said, okay, where do you want to go to dinner? And all of them in unison said Billy Sims' barbecue. I said, well, where is it? And they said, it's in Joplin. I said, I'm not going to Joplin for dinner. Are you nuts? It's 20 miles up there. And I tried to talk them into something else, and they just wouldn't hear it. They wanted to go to Billy Sims' barbecue. And I was in a weird mood that night, so I said, oh, well, what the heck, let's go. We hadn't even really noticed that there was a storm until we walked into Billy Sims, and the manager said, hey, there's a tornado. Are you guys sure you want to order? And we thought, wow, we didn't even realize it was one. But we drove all the way up here for dinner. We want to order. So we ordered and got our food and sat down, and about that time the tornado siren came on.
We looked out the window and into the parking lot of Toys R Us, and we could see the nervous workers looking at the sky.
We started watching the TVs pretty intently because it was showing the storm and the track, and I could see that we drove right into the heart of it because to the south in the Osho looked clear, but where we were was ugly.
I remember looking up at the TV screens, and the Weather Channel popped up, and the red was supposed to be representing the tornado, and the whole map was red.
All I could think about was, I'm gonna die. Where am I gonna go if a tornado does hit?
When me and my grandpa were talking, I asked him if he was afraid, and he said, no. And I said, why aren't you afraid? And he said, because when I'm afraid, I trust in Jesus.
Gobbled down the last of our food and hightailed it out the door to get out of here. As we were leaving, the manager was standing right there at the corner. As we walked by him, he said, be safe. Once we stepped outside, I knew we needed to get back to the south as fast as we could. Just as we pulled up to the stoplight on 7th and Range Line, the traffic light turned red and the tornado siren went off on a pole right beside of my truck. My first thought was turn right on Range Line and beeline south to Neosho. Everything in me was making that turn when I heard a distinct voice in my head say, stay on 7th. I knew that had to be God because I would not even have thought that thought. I wanted to be moving south. So I waited for the light to turn green and hightailed it down 7th Street. Seconds after turning on the bypass, 3 separate police cars with lights and sirens blaring passed us on the other side, headed into Joplin. I realize now that in my rearview mirror, I was watching the storm tearing up the city as I sped down 7th Street. Had we turned right on Range Line, we would have driven right into the heart of the storm. It wiped out everything for a mile on Range Line, just 3.5 miles from where I started to turn. It hit the bypass just moments after we crossed its intended path there. 158 people were killed, 1,150 people were injured that night in Joplin. Thank God for that still small voice that simply said, stay on 7th. In Cunningham Park in Joplin, they built a memorial for those who passed away in the tornado. I know for a fact that had we had turned right that night onto Range Line, we could easily be 4 names on this list. And not turning at that light that night, because that little voice said go straight on 7th. That's why we're looking at the plaque today instead of listed on it. That's pretty sobering.